All right, so let's get started. As I said, I'm Lee Mitchell, and I'm the founder of the Changemaker Collective, which is a business community for like-minded changemakers that are leading with impact and changing what matters. And I'm so honored to welcome my co-host, Miriam Dinaj, who is the founder of the Hustle House and a PR executive. And Miriam, and we call her Mimi. Let's have you say a few words.
Yes. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for the introduction, Lee. Hi, Susan. I'm so excited about today. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot. My name is Mariam Dangagigi. I'm a PR professional and also the founder of Hustle House PR and Media and Hustle House Community. What we basically do is PR, influencer relations, and then we have a community of professionals that we share and do things together. I'm really honored to be part of this webinar today. There's so many things to learn. Just from our live the other day, I picked up so many things. It changed the way I work with AI. So I'm sure there's a lot to learn. Thank you all for joining us. And Lee, I'll pass over the mic to you.
Okay, thank you so much. And yeah, I can't say enough about Mimi. She is just a genuinely lovely person. We've hosted many events, in-person events together, and
Correct.
two so far. And we have one coming up in early July that I'll talk about, an in-person event downtown Toronto at a really nice co-working space. And the event will be for changemakers like yourselves. So we welcome you to join. So I'll certainly talk about that at the end. But I'm super excited to pass the torch over to Susan Diaz, who will be leading us through the masterclass. And as I said, I have gotten so much out of her AI mastermind program already. I feel like a super hero when it comes to tech now and AI. And who knew that such a thing could be possible? So, Susan, let's make everybody into AI heroes.
Yes.
Yay.
There
Very
was a
awesome.
slang for this women in tech. I think right now, Lee, you need to add to your title, Women in Tech.
Yeah,
You've been
absolutely.
nailing it this whole week.
Thank you.
And so underrepresented too, right? And it's one of those things where it's easy enough to say that the reason there are no women in tech is because tech is intimidating and women don't really want to play there. But well, why is it intimidating and why don't they want to play there? And how are we systematically changing that, right? Because that's no way to live. So I can't wait to shout this sort of thing from the mountaintops. So, hello, everyone. My name is Susan Diaz. Thank you, Lee and Mimi, for organizing this and bringing people together to AI literacy is my mission. I carefully chose the word literacy instead of other powerful words like adoption and implementation. And the reason for that is because I like to think of it like the financial space or the health space, where a minimum literacy is just really non-optional to live a good quality of life. And while we might not be there entirely at this point as far as AI is concerned, because the people who are AI forward are probably still in the minority, even though a lot of people are experimenting. So today we're going to focus on how to leverage AI for strategy, sales, and impact. So we're gonna divide it into a few sections and go through it. I'm gonna go fast because the AI world calls for speed, and the concepts themselves just sort of like once they sink, they sink. Like Mimi was saying earlier, you can hear something once and then go try it out, and then suddenly you know how to do it, right? So think of it like just switching on a light, right? You know where the switch is and you go back and turn it on anytime you need to. So just a lighter moment. A lot of the time when I'm talking about AI, um, people will ask me questions which indicate a level of fearfulness, right? Starting with things like, it feels like we're cheating if you're using AI. What happens if it goes away, right? Is there a loss of critical thinking and problem solving? And is all of my data being used? And is data privacy like dead now that, AI can tell everything about you? And while there's merit to all of those things, and we must think about them, I wouldn't let it paralyze you. Just remind yourself that AI as a whole is not new, as you would think. It's existed since 1955, right? It's this version of generative AI that is relatively new, and it's been created for truly the betterment of all humankind, right? And so creating that access is the process that we're smack dab in the middle of right now. So if you're tempted to feel like overwhelmed by it, just remind yourself that like many of us have like vacuum cleaners that are, like little robots that know exactly which parts of your floor to clean, and they know where you spill your stuff. And so don't freak out too much. It's not as intimidating as all that. I'd love to say that at this point, just as we go, feel free to drop some questions, and I'll take little breaths, and maybe we can go through the questions, because I love an interactive session. But moving right along, what brought me to AI is what I'd like to tell you. Essentially, I'm a podcaster, and I've had a podcast for a very long time. Deeply enjoy the medium. It is the way that people come into my business in many, many cases. It used to be called the 4 a.m. report, and I used to ask people this sort of signature question, which is what keeps you up at night. And usually the discussion was around that topic, and it's such a relatable experience, right? Like Lee was talking about it at the top of the hour about how she was up till 3 doing something. So we all recognize that space. And so we recently went all in for the podcast on AI and rebranded it to AI literacy for entrepreneurs. But that heritage, or that DNA of just like getting to the root of it, right? And so the reason for that rebrand in itself was because more and more often on the podcast, when I asked that question, people would come back to me and say, oh, I'm worried about AI, or I'm so excited about AI, or I spent 6 hours doing this thing on AI, whatever it is, right? That is sort of like if you look on LinkedIn or anywhere else, like 5 out of every 10 posts has something to do with AI right now, right? So we're going to get into a little bit of that. A brief introduction, and there's a QR code here if anyone would like to connect with me on LinkedIn. I am the founder of Peaceful AI Marketing. Our core is content marketing. We build communities. As we step into AI, we've been creating categories, and the mission is really driving that AI literacy for people. I told you about my podcast. We talk to business owners and to experts in the field so that more of that literacy can be created. And obviously it's a podcast, so it's free for anyone to consume. This is a book I've written pre-AI. I like to say to people, writing a book pre-AI is in a different league. Like there's just so much work, but that's been simplified. And Lee mentioned a couple of times the mastermind, the AI mastermind. I have an AI mastermind called Marketing Power Circle, where we literally, at this point in history, it's the only AI implementation mastermind that exists. And it's far too well kept a secret, and we're hoping to change that, right? All right. So I mentioned there that AI is not new, right? It was created in 1955, and some of the fears that are echoed right now haven't changed all that much from 1955. It's like AI is going to take jobs, it's going to replace human beings, it's scary, that kind of stuff still exists. And without going into all of it, I'll say some of it is true. Jobs will be lost. There will be a change in the way things function in the business world. Upskilling will become non-optional. And I'm not saying this to be like a fear monger, but just be realistic about it and see where, it helps for you to sort of sharpen your unique value proposition, right? So when you think about AI on a familiar front, even if you're not using anything but ChatGPT, there are things that you've been using for a while that you might recognize that are really machine learning or a form of AI. So think about like your text app, or like on Apple, for example, is this Siri, and it's been finishing your sentences for you for forever. And if you go on a Google Doc, or if you go on a Word doc, it suggests one or two ways in which, so that's predictive. So the difference between predictive and generative is that predictive is just going to do a couple of patterns and finish what you're saying, versus generative can bring together a lot more data points to create something new, right? So if AI is not new, why did this particular piece, why did the generative AI piece, specifically ChatGPT, OpenAI, why did it become such a big deal? Why is that a phenomenon? And why did that phenomenon then drive the growth in the industries and get people who've been working on it for a lot longer to sort of catch up? If you think about, whether it's the Googles or other tools like Claude from Anthropic, like things have happened really quickly. And think about DeepSeek, and so the market is massively shifted. And I think what makes that shift happen is the fact that they've brought together a few features. One is that it's credible. Obviously, there's hallucinations. Obviously, you need to do some fact checking and all of that, but it brings together like a vast amount of credible information, and it does so like quickly, right? So there's something deeply soothing about watching it prepare something for you that you are not preparing yourself. Obviously, I'm not saying it replaces you entirely, but that's what it is. It's the fact that it's easy, it's in chat format, it's so quick. And to make it all just that much better, it's free. There's a version of all of these tools that is pretty robust that's available for free, right? And so that's where the access is being created. All this said, going back to that fear piece, too often people are like, me versus AI, like, I'm better than AI, and I'm whatever. If you get into that competitive space, you're reducing yourself to the level of a machine. It needs to be you plus AI, right? You plus this sort of exponential whatever you want it to be, productivity tool, growth tool, end world hunger tool. Like the moment is yours to decide what your impact is in this, right? And so I encourage people to remember that the missing piece for us is to see this as robotic process automation. And for those who don't really know what that is, think of it like in Amazon or whatever, in a warehouse. At one point, people were picking things from a spot and putting it into a box and sealing the box and then pushing the box on to the next spot, right? But that stuff has been automated. There are robots that will pick and pack and put it in, and human checkpoints. So does that mean the hundreds of thousands of people lost their jobs? Well, yeah, but those people are also doing other things now, like sort of raising that bar, like moving it up. It's not an easy transition. I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture, because it's not. But upskilling, once again, is the piece that we're here to focus on, right? So robotic process automation, if anyone's a superhero movie fan, and if you like yourself some Iron Man old school stuff, right? Think of it like how he uses Jarvis, like how the Avengers sort of interface with their tech tools. Like that's the geeky parts of it. But essentially, I want you to think about the back end where they just access technology easily without having to use like devices and whatever. You say some words and the machine reacts, right? So we're actually literally in a space where you can do that. So how can we take that into the creative mind, and how can we use it without sort of feeling like the AI is here to replace all of us? So if I'm hearing you and take a guess and say what's in your head, yes, but where do I start, Susan? I'm about to tell you. Think of AI as your strategic partner, right? I mean, too often we're thinking like AI is like a junior resource, right? You're asking it to do task-based things. Perhaps you're saying, write me a caption or write me an email or whatever. So it's like one thing at a time. And while it's a lot faster, there's a limit to the gains to be had there, right? You're still going to hit a ceiling where you're constantly sort of interfacing with the machine for one thing at a time, because you're still doing all of the thinking, and then you're expecting the machine to respond to some tasks. So instead, think of it like your second brain, like store, like what does list making look like in today's world, right? I mean, are we still writing all our lists and crossing them out? Are we able to use AI to sort of store some of that? and sort of remind you. There's multiple ways in which you can do that. We won't go into all of it in this session, but just start thinking about that. Like go all the way to, this is a strategic partner, a high level resource, and not, you know, like an intern. And also just from a mindset perspective, like where is your head at, right? I mean, when you're tempted to feel fearful, or when you're tempted to feel unsure of where to start, curiosity is what I like to bring to the front. So just creating that culture of curiosity, even if there's just one person in your company, you know, in your circles, create that culture of curiosity, and thinking that, you know, for small business owners, this is an unfair advantage for a limited amount of time. And building that sort of foundational understanding of AI first within yourself, and then, you know, small continuous improvement goals, so that you can create some literacy across your organization, whether it's one person, two people, five people, or like a large organization with, you know, hundreds and thousands. So the first of the sort of prompting hacks that we promised, this is the only one that I would call a hack because I don't love the word, but we all know what a hack is. So let's use the word. This is something that I like to call a master prompt. And depending on which tool you're using and what version of the tool, whether it's paid or unpaid, some of this might be built into the tool and it might ask you questions. But the simplest thing that I can offer you is start by asking the AI to ask you questions. And that's the hack. Instead of you having all of the information that you need at hand and then starting to work, which is potentially how you would have delegated to like a human, right? You'd be like, oh, here's all of the information. Let's pull together a brief. And then, you know, I need you to work on this. Now, you can do that with AI, but you don't need to. So let's let AI do that heavy lifting. So I've got an example here that I'm going to share with you of what that looks like. This is something, I mean, I'm live sharing stuff that I work on, right? Just so you know, this is an actual use case for an actual product that actually exists, that we actually sell. How many times did I say actually? All right, so here's what it would look like if I was working on like going to that sales part of the thing, right? The pipeline building. So my master prompt would look like this. I'd like to create a sales plan to add $300,000 to my pipeline. I sell an AI implementation mastermind to small business owners with teams of under 5. Ask me questions to help me identify what information I need to give you to create an effective plan. So what have you done here, folks? You've delegated. You have shifted the responsibility of the information from yourself to the machine. It's a small shift, and in the end, you're still providing the information, but it's going to give you the framework for thinking. And that's what I mean by use it as your second brain, like use it as your strategic partner. So here's what it gave me. And it's incredible. Like some of the stuff is, you know, of course, we've all worked with people who've like coaches and consultants and people who help us, but those things are obviously expensive and you don't have constant access to it. And making sure that you have that knowledge yourself is just such a huge thing. So it's given me these points. It's like, to create this plan, let's put together this critical information. So it wants me to say, what's the price point? What's your session capacity? How often is the mastermind? And then it goes into who's my audience? What's the ideal client profile? Do you have leads inside of your existing network? Are you targeting like Canada, international? So when I see these questions, what happens for me is the ability to just switch into giving it that information. And again, another hack over here is just use like your mobile device and use the record button, the little mic on most of the you know, LLMs. Any one of them will allow you to record voice message, and then you can even sort of like stream of consciousness answer all of this if you don't have it documented somewhere, right? If you do have it documented somewhere, pull out those pieces and provide it. But if you don't, this is just, you know, easily downloading. And think of the thing, I mean, like when you have businesses, the value of the business is in the systems that you create. We've heard this before. But how do you get from having all of it in one founder's head or one solopreneur's head into a system? It's not the easiest thing to do, right? And so having this kind of ability to input all of the details into an LLM and then have it give you, you know, like a documented plan is just invaluable. So it took me through a bunch of other questions: how many participants, the time frame, what is my current sales conversion, and then it talked about my marketing, what is the process I'm going to follow for the sales thing, how do we support, what are the KPIs. So you see here, it's like, this is detail, like major detail. And so what I did is I promptly went into my Google Doc. I put all of this in there, and then Google Doc has voice to text as well. And so you can sort of voice it out, and all of this was instantly documented. Now,
stop. Sorry, just one person asked, Karen asked, what's LLM? So just.
Oh yeah. LLM is basically the technical term. It's a large language model, which is essentially what ChatGPT is, and Gemini is, and like Copilot on Microsoft. All of these are an engine that's called an LLM. Since we're doing that, should we quickly look at comments, questions? Are there any other things we should look at?
Feel free to pop a question in if you have one, or if it's okay with Susan to unmute yourself and ask a question.
Go ahead. If anyone has questions, we'll leave some time at the end as well for questions, but this is as good a time as any. Susan, that image is hilarious. It's true. I mean, I used to do so many images of how I was up at night, but that Lay's dill pickle chips one is potentially, if you Google me, that'll show up. You do such good work in your life, and people remember you for eating chips at midnight. Sadly, people lose their jobs. It's true. People do. And, and that's why I think it's having a clear plan for how this is going to go, right? I mean, the CEO of Claude from Anthropic recently said something to the effect of, 20% of entry-level jobs will be replaced by AI. And who has those entry-level jobs? It's the people who coming out of school with massive student loan, and the people who are just starting out, people who are struggling to meet their daily needs. So these things, it's going to be messy. I mean, there's no sort of way around it. The fact is, it's here though. If we were stopping this avalanche, the time would have been 10 or 15 years ago. Right now, saying that we won't use it because we're concerned for its effects is kind of like putting away the calculator and pretending it doesn't exist when really it does. So yeah, anyway, so speaking of LLMs, just moving into some specific tools, right? Often people will ask me that, and I will say tools are not where to start, strategy is where to start, but we already talked a little bit about that. So there are some generalist tools that is worth having in your repertoire, if you will, and then beyond that, the tools will depend on who you are and what you're trying to do. So I'm going to share a couple of them. I mean, there will be no surprises here. Obviously, ChatGPT I stick with it because my thinking is that you need to pick one tool and gain mastery in it, as opposed to like playing them against each other and trying it here and trying it there. And do that for some time for experimentation, by all means. But like eventually, I think just getting to the place where you're like, this is it. It's kind of like saying, do I want Microsoft Word or do I want Google Docs? Like pick a universe and stay there. And then from time to time, you'll need to cross over into the other side. But yeah, the free version is pretty decent. But I often say to people, investing in any one of these tools, whichever one you pick, whether it's this one or Claude or Gemini, paying for one of them at the $20 mark is kind of like, think of it like the new stationery, right? At one point you bought pens and books and whatever, or you bought certain specific tools. This is unless you have a large team, this is kind of a no-brainer investment, and it's definitely worthwhile in my opinion, for one reason and one reason alone, is because you can build custom GPTs, which means you can create practically a software or 100 softwares inside of like the plus version. Anyway, brainstorming is its strength. Everyone assumes writing is ChatGPT's strength, and it is, but brainstorming is a big part of it, right? So That's one. And then Perplexity is really like it's more focused on like the search part of it. So if you have like research to run, and now with ChatGPT's deep research, which I'm going to share with you in a second, maybe this is not as necessary, but if you have like massive amounts of references to provide, or sources of information to pull together, this is a good one. Again, the free one's pretty good, but if you do a lot of that work, it might be worth thinking about paying for it. And then there's one called Zapier. This precedes generative AI, but what they did is they quickly jumped on the thing, and they have sort of added AI forward features to it, and they have helped you sort of integrate with a bunch of AI tools. So where this becomes valuable is when you want to automate. Everyone's talking about automation and AI agents and things like that. So how are we going to get to that? You're going to have to link a bunch of pieces together, right? If this, then that, then go here, then come back here, and then give this to me. So when you need to do that, you need a tool that will take you through those steps. This is a bit more advanced if you're just getting started, maybe, or unless you already have it in your business. There are a couple of other tools that do this, but I feel like in the small business space, a lot of people already have Zapier. So you might as well just stay in the place you are, because it is a bit of a nightmare to change from one thing to the other. So those are the three main tools. And then if you're specifically talking about sales strategy, and you're specifically thinking about prospecting and pipeline building, there are a couple of things. One is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn itself at a free level is a tool, right? But if you are looking to widen the top of your funnel and sell to a lot of people, Sales Navigator is an excellent idea. And then there's this tool, and I think Lee knows this one well. It's called Ask Crystal, where, I mean, again, it's $49 for a decent version of it, but there is a free level if you're not dealing with massive numbers. And what this one does is you can, like, I could go in there and take Lee's LinkedIn profile and paste it into this tool, and then it'll give me some thoughts about Lee. So for example, it'll tell me, is this person risk tolerant or risk averse? Are they trusting or skeptical? Maybe it's a little binary in a few ways, but it's kind of, think of it like Colby or Myers-Briggs or DISC, those kind of assessments, which are so see the meeting tips that it provides you. Take time to highlight the stability and security of the product, put concerns and risks at the forefront, don't assume you have her trust. So these are like emotionally intelligent tools that help you sell at a much higher frequency, if you will, at the risk of sounding a little woo-woo. So we talked about prompting, and often too many people are just scratching the surface. So I want to share one more sort of case study of how deep research is used. And for those who are probably not using deep research right now, even on the ChatGPT free version, you have a few instances, I think 5 or 6 a month, that you're able to use for deep research. So what it is it's something, it's going to do what research companies took like hours, months, weeks, whatever to do, manual research, and it's going to pull it together from the sources that you specify. Is there a chance of it giving you wrong information? Yes, which is why you need to still click the sources and check them, but it still sure as hell beats you sitting and finding all of these things one at a time on Google, right, or wherever else you search. So it can synthesize these large volumes of content, these data points, and then it will bring together insights that you can use in your messaging. So where would you use deep research? Think about like buyer psychology, figuring out trends in your market, maybe. Perhaps there's a lot of competitors in your market and you want to like look at what they're talking about so that you can try to use it. Positioning. So that's the kind of stuff that you would use it for. So there's a framework I want to go through really quickly, and you can use this for any AI prompt. I'll be giving you a QR code in a second for where we put together some prompts from today so that you can use them. And maybe Lee, you could drop the link as well in the chat. But essentially what I suggest is this RTFM framework. And if anyone's from the tech or tech adjacent world, you know what RTFM means. RTFM I mean, this is a private forum, so you're allowed to swear, but it basically means read the fucking manual. And so I thought it'd be funny and not a framework that you're going to forget. So, this is what RTFM breaks down to. Essentially, R is the role. So you have to tell your AI what it's doing, right? Like you are a research assistant or you are a marketing blah, blah. It can do all of the things, but when you narrow the guardrails, it performs better. So that's the role. The task obviously is like what exactly you want it to do. What is the research task, right? And how do you want it broke down? I mean, and then comes the factors, which is like the 5 W's, if you will, the who, what, why, where, when, that kind of thing. And then lastly, what formats do you want the output in? What kind of systems do you want it to create? What modalities, that kind of thing. So RTFM is really the format. Like, even if you don't remember every part of it, if you go through role and task and factors, you'll easily sort of get much better outputs. So I'm going to share with you how I ran a research prompt for, again, it's something for my industry. So this is kind of how it breaks down. This is the prompt. Hat tip to Dan Sanchez. He's my co-creator on a custom GPT for podcasters. If anyone wants that, connect with me on LinkedIn and I can sort you out. But essentially, this is the prompt. You are an industry leading research analyst. Analyze the current state of offers and then this is where anywhere there's a square bracket, you need to customize it for yourself, right? So look at what is commonly available and identify 3 to 5 gaps. Then give me insights into why these gaps exist and and how businesses might position themselves. You conduct an extensive analysis of online conversations where, and this is where you put in your target audience, whoever that is, right? And in this particular case, I'll tell you who that was and we'll go through it. And then you want to go into sources. Where do you want it to research is something that's important to answer, right? Obviously, you want the top tier news publications and so forth, but people talk on forums, people talk on social media, people talk on Reddit and Quora and that kind of stuff. Don't forget podcasts, right? Podcast transcripts are places that you should look for information. Video, YouTube comments. I've received entire MBAs from just reading YouTube comments from certain creators, right? And then you need to specify, and this is the mechanics. You'll give me a clear written summary, a summary table of categories, and for each category, a label section with an analysis and 12 bullet points that contain direct quotes with sources. So this is how I filled it all out, right? I mean, we can share. I mean, there is a download, so there'll be some of it there, but we can certainly share the slides too. So this is kind of what it came up with. Some of the table I asked it for. It said, here are some dissatisfaction points: generic content, lack of, this is for training, right? Because I put in, I provide workshops and training. And so I wanted some of this stuff. So it came up with boring delivery, employees are afraid they're going to get replaced, lack of follow through. So these things, like there are 5 or 6 key things here, and not even one of them was on my radar. Like I was talking about a totally different thing, right? And now you find out what people care about, and it immediately helps you get to a place where you're creating content to answer those questions. You're having these points of research like woven into your discussions with people as you're having sales calls or whatever it is. And so a lot of I want to share a couple of things in terms of like actual quotes from people, right? So it says, the top one, for example, implementing AI requires a cultural shift. Employees may resist adoption due to fear of job displacement, lack of understanding, And then people are talking, the sales hype is BS from someone who hasn't done any AI training of coding. Everyone in my team is worried that the real goal of this training is to trim headcount, so morale is low. One person literally said, we're training our replacements, only half joking. So these are actual fears that might have taken you forever to surface up. And a lot of them are from Reddit and Quora. And like I said, actual places where people are having discussions and you know who they are, right? So this is like a bunch more of those. So then what did I do with that research? I was like, okay, using this, develop a sales plan and help me sort of outreach to my first degree. And I'd like you to outline 2 levels. And then I want to create like a presentation. So then it went through this. Again, I'm not going to go through everything, but it broke it down for me in a way that's sensible for me. And then I put it down into slides. I took it over into Canva. And then I had a deck to send out for something like this, which is like rooted in actual language that these people recognize, as opposed to just me selling myself and saying, hey, I'd like to come and present a session to you people, right? It's on a different level. So I hope that showed you a little bit about how, just the quality of your prompt. People will tell you prompts are dead and prompt engineering is dead and whatever, but like regardless of that, I think the way to think about it is prompting is the way that you talk to the machine, and that's never going to stop. So you're going to need to figure out how to do that. So broadly, what I'm saying to you is your AI needs a promotion. Stop briefing it like an intern, right? Brief it like a CMO, like really take that prompting to the next level, and then your content is going to be the next level. It's that simple. And finally, do you want me to go back? I saw Lee do the thing. Yeah. So now we talked about a lot of the prompting for your sales and for your strategy. And I do want to remind you that there's the impact piece in all of this, right? And often when you're like, okay, there are these goals that you have, you want to change the world, you want to, do great work, you want to like contribute in a way that moves humanity forward. And the thing that stops people is I don't have the time. And, like, how do you manufacture time? How, like in today's world with AI, you can save yourself time. So how are you going to do that, right? I don't think you can do that until you know what you do with your time right now. So audit your time, where we spend it makes all the difference. So just get a broad understanding of how you're spending your time. Start with your calendar, take a look at that. Take a few screenshots. If it has a lot of info that you don't want to share, you can always like block it out or just summarize it. And then you put it into AI, and ask these questions. Like, how many hours a day am I spending on work, right? I mean, how many hours on kids or pets or caregiving duties? How many hours do I cook or I clean? All of these things, they really eat into your time, your headspace, your ability to continue to perform productively. And so getting a real idea of that is a good place to start as you decide what to do, more and more to create major impact in the world. And the prompt for how to run this is again in that download. I think Lee put it into the chat as well, but I will leave it on here on the screen for a second as well, in case you want to scan the QR code. This will give you a few prompts that you can run, copy paste, add your information and run directly, including that time audit one, which is always illuminating. I think people are always interested when you look at it and you're like, whoa, I spend 30% of my time just picking up and dropping off my kids. How do we either change that or make space for that, or whatever your goal is? So all of those prompts will be in here. For those who want more, because AI is moving really fast, and learning inside of a community, learning alongside other people who are taking that journey with you is just huge. As Lee was saying earlier in the hour, I run a mastermind called the Marketing Power Circle. We have twice a month sessions where essentially we're taking prompts like this and we're turning it into workflows, we're turning it into automations. And like Lee said, she's built herself like a custom tool that helps with, the specific kind of PR with impact that she's working on. So there's a lot that's possible. We have a live hot seat format, lots of resources, and obviously direct access to me, because I like to do some prompt surgery, because they're like, oh, change that and your input's going to get different. Maybe I have x-ray vision, what do you know? And essentially when you do something like this, it's like the biggest thing that you can quantify right now. And you're like, where's the ROI at for me to join a paid mastermind and learn AI, which might go away in 2026? Well, the ROI is the time saved at this point. That's the best metric to look at. And then what you do with that time is where the impact piece comes in. So I'd say most people who come into the mastermind, or all people who come into the mastermind, will save a minimum of 2 to 3 hours per day. You know, like, and when you look at it across months and years, that's just next level. So once again, this is the QR code for the mastermind. If anybody'd like to check out the details, or if you want to chat with Lee or I, we're happy to give you more information. So I'm going to leave that up on the screen for a second. I know we don't have a ton of time for questions, but I'm happy to stick around and answer some if there are questions.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself, or if you're not in a position to do that, you can put a question in the chat. And I'll open the chat. I will say that how you spend your time is so important. And I really do feel that since I've met Susan, I have come up with some incredible technology that has really been a game changer. And it's freed up the time to work on the stuff that is the most impactful, as Susan said. So that can make a huge difference. Because, you know, no one has time to like sit there and like test out different tools and experiment and then find out, oh, that didn't end up being what I thought it was. Like, we've already done the pre-testing, so we can sort of lead you in the right direction. And even that, in a sense, is helping to save time.
Yeah, I think to add to what Susan said, when she said the best ROI is actually time. And well, just like also what you said, Lee, it's really hard sometimes when you have a task, just sitting and thinking around it also takes time. And then, you know, coming and doing it and then trying to correct it and then going back to do it again. But right now with AI, it's so simple. Just like we use ChatGPT for brainstorming. And I love the way, Susan, you said that, you know, we could do it like we feed it, like it can ask us the question. So this is where I think a lot of us get it wrong. This is like my biggest takeaway for today. Let it ask the question, because again, they always say it's in our prompts, but then if our prompts are also not as uh, uh, helpful or informative, or they don't have a lot of information, then we're still stuck in that, you know, basic answers or generic answers that we still want more out of it. So I think asking the question, that's a great takeaway to know of. And of course, ROI is time. I never even looked at it in that way, you know, but time, and that's what we all don't have a lot of. 24 hours in a day. Yeah, not enough. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
Love it. There's a question here from Ishneek, not directly related to marketing, but job search, since AI is being used in the hiring process. Yeah, AI is being used in the hiring process. So I think as candidates now, you have the option of using it yourself too, right? It's maybe in the workplace, it hasn't been used in the best way, too often, just like taking out, like, I don't know, people over 40, or taking out people of a certain I don't know, background, in some cases taking out women altogether. Like, so there's been a lot from the hiring end that has like not been great. I think there's an equalizing of the playing field, if you will, right now. So what you're able to do is just get a lot more intentional with your application process. Like we talked about deep research, maybe use deep research to surface up jobs that haven't even been listed yet, right? And that haven't come out into the mainstream, for example. Use it to take a job description or a referral or what have you, and then go deep into finding out what it is that interviewer might want to hear from you, and then show up having prepared for those things. Like in a different world, like I'm Gen X, and in a different world, like I remember libraries, that's how far back we're talking, where you needed to go and wait for a book if the book wasn't available. And so now you're in a place where you can control your narrative. You can show up having prepared for these interviews. You can surface up things that you didn't know existed. You can find people responsible in your dream list of companies, right? I mean, and maybe that's a tip as well. I was always told that because I come from a background of, agency and corp comms, and in that space, you really you need to put yourself sort of out there and like have people know what you stand for, so you can do all of that um, now using AI.
Another thing that I learned from our mini masterclass was that you can save your AI projects in projects.
Yes.
So like some of us, I'm sure you probably have experienced this, like you're like, oh, when did where do I find that uh
Yeah.
project that I created? It's all kind of like, in one big I don't know how to describe it, but like it's just
There's
hard.
one set
It's
of
like
threads.
email. It's like
Yeah.
trying to scroll through your emails and you just get lost in them. So that's
Yeah.
something interesting that I learned from our last time that we were together. And then also, if you're using it for sales, like really challenging it to come up with, perfecting your outreach, because so many people don't do their homework when they reach out to you.
Hmm.
It's just funny, and yet there's really no excuse for it. You know, it doesn't. It's so off-putting when someone doesn't
I know.
take 2 minutes to find out what you do before they pitch you. Like I literally had someone on LinkedIn pitch me for what I do. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I said, I don't, maybe this is a little bitchy, but I said, it's like I said, I just said, thank you, for reaching out to me, but it would be nice if you looked at my profile before asking me if I need my help in the area that's
Yeah.
specifically on my profile. It's like asking a mechanic if they need help with their car. So, I think if we can build in the time to do a better job at the stuff that's going to monetize, I think that can be really powerful.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And also for educators. So, here's the thing. No one is going to do business with people that they don't know, like, and trust. And what I find with using AI for putting together a strategy to train people, to give them a taste of who you are and what you do, and that's what we're doing here with you. A lot of the people that are here know either myself, or they know you, or they know Mimi. And so that is, a way in which, you already have a sense, like, this person isn't going to be a quack, and you're not. So, uh, so using AI to build a pipeline of giving people value, right? Like, I hope people found this to be valuable, and it's not a sales pitch. It's like generally just wanting to be of service and support, and introduce you to people that might help in areas of your life. And that's what I like about AI support, is that it's not just for your business life. You can use it in your personal life. You can use it for, like, even, some decisions that you're struggling with personally. You can use it for travel. Yeah, so, I think the more we upskill ourselves, the more fulfilling our life will be. So, but yeah, will probably, unless anyone has a question, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I've asked a question to Miss Susan Zakar.
Yes, go ahead.
I think something's coming through.
Uh, yeah, that slide about buying back time. Yes, tell me more. Ah, yes. You're worried that AI will put you out of work because you're a designer. I would say that designers probably, it's going to take a little longer for designers to be put out of work than maybe writers, because I feel like the people who are able to brief machines in a way that has an end product that's good design are actually some kind of designer themselves, right? And so my advice to you would be like, get into doing design with AI in some ways, whatever that looks like for you, right? Whether it's the thinking process, it's the delivery process, or it's actual AI generated design. I think just getting ahead of the market is what I would advise.
Any other final quick questions we can answer?
Yeah, hi Lee. Thank you, Susan. I love the other podcast that I listened to, the pre, and this has been so inspiring. You mentioned something about custom GPTs, and I've heard that term before. I don't fully understand it. Chat GPT has um now knows me and my brand and my product and everything, but I don't know if that's the same as creating a custom GPT.
Not necessarily. So a custom GPT, essentially, if you're it's firstly the ability to create it is only available on the paid account. So the if you have that, then what do you have that, Anita, or no? Okay, so that would be the first thing, is that you'd need the paid account. If you're not sure if you want to commit to it, you can do it for a month or two just to play with it and then try. But once you're on the paid account, if you go over to their tab on the left hand side, you'll see GPTs, and then it'll say create one, and you would create a GPT for something which you find you're doing often. That's a good way to think about it. Like if there's something you do at least weekly, if not multiple times a week, maybe like some specific kind of report or writing or social or whatever it is, you can give it some specific instructions, and then set it up to do that one thing really well. So that kind of thing, I would like you to think beyond marketing as well, right? It can be something that's operations, or it can be something that's like customer inquiry or whatever it is. So custom GPTs really are a narrowing of that large language model to do one thing. Like for example, I have a really good one that I use, and I've offered it up to people as well, and it's a free tool to help people who have podcasts interview their guests better. So it does one thing, and it does one thing well, and I don't have to tell it anything else because I've already explained to it how to do this. Yeah, Lee's used it.
I use it all the time. It's
Yeah,
so
so
good.
it's
So you're
one tool. Yeah,
so you're saying that there could already be existing custom GPTs that I could tap into?
you could.
Oh, there's
You
tons
could.
of them.
There's
There's
tons
a
of them. There's a whole
marketplace.
store. It's like an app store on for your phone or
And
what
that's
have you.
through the paid only.
Well, you can access them for free, but you can only build with the
Oh,
paid account. And so I think the real value is when you take some specific things that are your business focused, and then you do it, and then you don't need to share it with anyone. It's a private tool, right? Too often we're just racing to create these public tools, and that's not what we need right now. Defining your own process
right,
and using it internally could
right.
work.
Thank you.
I see Sean had a question, and then Emily. You're on mute there, Sean. Hi.
Hi. This is a question, but at the same time, it's a comment of where I am using AI. So right now, I use AI on my media platform. But one of the reasons why I was using it was because my whole platform is based on the use of content. So I need to have content on. So I was busy trying to get people together, to be able to produce their content to put on. And the time frame became so tight for me that I got so frustrated that I was like, you know what? Let's give AI a shot. Right. So now there are a couple of my programs that has AI as a host. Right. So I've created the AI to be a host for
Very cool.
everyone. So
Yeah.
no one knows any differently, but it did create this dilemma. It's like I wanted my platform to be interpersonal, but what has happened is that, you know, AI basically gives me the same ambition that I give towards my platform. So it's, you know what I mean? So it has its own personality in that sense. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the shows that I have called The Spoken Spot, and what they do is an intro narration of what I am presenting for that week. And then I would go back to the GPT and I would ask for suggestions of what to look for, what's in public domain, what's not. And it gives me all that information. And it's great. And then all of a sudden I sat and realized, I'm like, I don't need people anymore. And I was like, oh, this is not good.
It's a little scary, isn't it? And that's the
Yeah,
part where when people are saying, oh, it's not going to replace any jobs. And sometimes I'm like,
right,
in my own small company, it has replaced jobs. So
right,
it is going to do like we said, we're firmly in the messy middle where the
right.
ethics questions, everything is here.
No, I don't want to relinquish all of everything that I'm doing towards AI. But you did bring up that sort of muddy area. Is there a proper way that I could blend both the human element, not me per se, but getting somebody else in to contribute? And can I blend that properly with AI so that it doesn't seem like the AI is consuming all of you know, all of the message or all of the creativity and all of that stuff because the AI is highly creative, right? And I could see how it could um, engulf some person who's also trying to show that creativity as well. What would you suggest would be a blend of having both the human element and AI so it doesn't seem like one is sort of trying to beat Diaz in a competition. But sometimes it feels
Yeah.
that way even with me.
Right. See, I would think about it from a workflow perspective. I think you need certain points where there's human input. And one of those points is the actual sort of creative ideas that you're thinking about in
Right,
some format, whether it's the beginning, it's after an intake, it's whichever stage you put that in.
right,
So I think that sort of that diagnosis thing, maybe you can train your AI to ask like, this is my assessment. Do you want to follow A, B, or C? So there you're having sort of human input in terms of
right,
that decision making piece, right?
right,
And
right,
so so I would think about a few stages in the journey, if you will, where humans can come in, and then sort of again having AI push it to the human as opposed to having humans go in and do it one at a time, right? So
right.
yeah.
So that would minimize the need for me to have people, but I don't want to take all of that away because I do have to hire a team at
Yes.
some point. I just want to make sure that there is a structured balance so it doesn't feel like AI is just taking over everything,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
So,
start with just drawings on napkins and putting it down, saying what is the whole process, and then
right,
human here, and then
right,
human at this point, and then
right,
human for final check and so forth.
right.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
awesome. Thanks, Sean. Emily.
Not real complicated. I'd like to copy the chat so I can access the links afterwards. How do I do
Yes,
that?
you just go to the three dots where it says Lee Mitchell's personal meeting room. Wait, is it that? No, wait, hold on. Where is that download chat button?
Usually they're at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone else remember where that button is, folks?
Oh,
The
chat.
save chat thing.
I'm just wondering if it's turned off, if we can get it turned on.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Can we turn it off? I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, you can turn it off.
I'm looking right now. Transcript.
No, that starts the transcripts. This has been absolutely fabulous. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Emily.
Sorry, I'm still looking to see if I can figure it out. Notes.
You know what? It'll get saved once you're done with the thing. So
Oh.
maybe you could send it out with the
Yeah,
resources. Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
okay?
I'll do that.
Yeah.
How's that sound, Emily?
Yeah.
That sounds fabulous.
Okay,
Thank you
perfect.
so much.
And
Because it
I
has
have your-
everyone's LinkedIn. It'll be nice to connect. So good
Yeah,
job.
Exactly.
yes.
Okay.
Nice.
And you registered, so I have your email, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
And I put my LinkedIn in the chat. So,
Excellent.
okay.
All right.
Great.
Great. Thanks so much.
You're
Well, thank you,
welcome.
everyone. This has
Yeah,
been
thanks.
awesome.
And just real quick, anyone who's still listening, we do have an in-person event for those that are in Toronto on July, sorry, I'm going through a chat here, July 21st. And it is at a co-working space downtown called 111. And it's LinkedIn local. So it's people who are active in the GTA that are on, well, you don't have to be on LinkedIn, but that's where it originated from. And it is a co-ed event for change maker professionals that want to connect with other like-minded people and get advice just like we have today. So looking forward to sending out information about that, and definitely anyone who's interested in knowing more about the mastermind. As I mentioned, I am a part of it. I am a firm believer in the value that it brings. Otherwise, I would never have done this with Susan, but that's how much I believe in it. So I know that she will deliver value for you. So if you're curious, and it is available on a monthly or yearly basis, I don't know if you want to mention anything more about it before we wrap up, just in case anyone has questions.
Yeah, the program is we asked for 12 months for the program, and there's a couple of payment options. Either you can pay it all at one shot, or you can pay it monthly, pay as you go, so that it just gets a little bit easier on the cash flow. The link that we dropped, as well as the follow-up material, will have all of the information, like the when, the where, the how much, and all of it. So yeah, reach out to us if that's of interest, and we'll help you on your way.
I thought that was really unique that you're the only person that you know of that is running something like that. So
It's new, right? And
yeah.
like there's not nearly enough like people who are doing it. I myself was only able to do it because I was already running a mastermind, and then I shut it down, and I'm like, let me think for 2 months, and then I came back and I'm like, we're gonna do an AI specific mastermind. So and that came from the people in the group where they were like, hey, people that like Helen and others who are like, what should we focus on this? And I was like, well, if the people want the thing, we give them the thing. So that's kind of how it started.
Cool. So it was crowdsourced.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
very
best way,
cool.
right? We're marketers, and the
Yeah.
best way to create something is to create something that people want. So
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a blast. Susan, you better get run into school.
off to school. All right. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Mimi.